Hey folks, welcome to a podcast about Catholic things. This is Eric, the ambassador of common sense, and I'm here with
Dan, the ambassador of nonsense. Welcome, everyone.
Yeah, we got kind of a touchy subject today. If there are young kids, just skip this episode.
Might want to.
And if there might be some people who find it really offensive. I mean, I guess if you're a victim of sexual abuse, I probably wouldn't listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
This episode.
Yeah.
Because
it's just a touchy, emotional
subject. We're going to talk about some things that a lot of people are very unwilling to talk about. Or in a way that they're unwilling to talk about. But I guess this is where this is stemming from. One of the Catholic newspapers or whatever talked about McCarrick. Is he Cardinal? Cardinal McCarrick or just Archbishop?
Well, it was Cardinal McCarrick, but I think during this time he was just an Archbishop.
He's been kicked out
bishop
now.
Somewhere, yeah.
Okay. But he was in Washington. Well, it never stopped with him. It's not like there was a time that he did things. There's a time that we could prove he did things. But one of the big things is that he was taking advantage of his time in the seminaries to go after seminarians. And one of the articles I looked at, and I'm assuming there are a whole bunch that I didn't look at, described this as preying on young seminarians and used the word prey and predation and predator several times. Mm-hmm. And since then, this subject gets brought up in various podcasts that I enjoy listening to, but I keep hearing this word predator, not describing young boys, but describing young men.
Seminarians. How old do you got to go to be into seminary? I think there may be places where you might be able to get in if you're 16. I think most of the places in the United States, you at least have to be graduated from high school, which typically 17, 18.
Mm-hmm. And I have a hard time calling a 18-year-old man who has had sex with an older man a victim. Maybe victim to the point where he was somehow seduced or manipulated, but not the same way that we might call an 18-year-old girl a victim.
Right, because there is a weakness in girls. I don't mean, just physically, although physically is part of it, but
it's there mentally too. I know nobody wants to admit it, but it's there, and it's there to see their natural way of looking at an old man is one of trust and kind of the idea of fighting with them is kind of naturally
repugnant.
Even
if they're surprised at what they're doing or think that it's inappropriate, they don't want to think it. That's why women tend to, in situations like that, they talk about having some kind of feeling like it's their fault somehow.
Right.
And that's why they don't fight back. I don't think men are built the same way. I mean, you might once in a while hear, a man feel, giving those same kinds of stories. I haven't heard them, but men aren't built the same way. I could just say that as a man.
And I even go back further. I mean, I try to envision when these stories come out, and I guess the reason, here's the thing, when the stories about the priests come out, we know what the media does. Every priest who touches any minor is a pedophile. And we know that's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, most of them are just gay.
That's true. That's right. Most of the priest problem is all the gays that have been recruited to the priesthood, and because of the atmosphere of sexual license, a bunch of them are also pedophiles. That's really what goes on.
Or at least there's a word for someone who's goes after post-pubescent boys as opposed to pre-pubescent.
Pederast.
No, it's...
what I'm talking about.
Hold on. Hebephilia.
Say that again? It sounded like you said pedophilia.
Heb. H-E-B-E.
Oh, hebephilia. Okay. Which is probably, I mean, it's just an extension of
now they're describing that as persistent sexual interest in pubescent children. And then there's...
so it's right around that age.
There's even later, like just post-pubescent children, which would be called ephebophilia. I hate these words because my inability to pronounce words just comes out and shines here. ephebophilia. Ephebophilia. So this is post-pubescent or just after pubescent, whereas hebephilia is during puberty.
Okay. And most of what is in the priesthood is,
maybe hebe or ephebo.
Which I think both of those are basically just like extensions of being homo.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like there's a lot of guys out there who are for the most part normal, but they're interested in college age girls, say,
which is a big thing.
Some might cast their eyes on high school age girls, not the same as little girls, but
right.
16. You've got that phenomenon 16 going on 25 kind of thing.
Yeah, 16 going on 30. Yeah. That's it. I mean, that's a normal part of sexuality is to look at younger people. Now, I don't even know. I'm not going to say that because, the weird thing is, the older my daughters are, the less I find younger girls in any way attractive.
Yeah.
It's like they're always older than my daughters.
Yeah.
If I were even going to glance at them. Mm-hmm. But it's a normal thing.
No, I know
if men talk about college girls, you're not going to call that abnormal or sick. Right. Maybe, loose. I don't know. It's not good, but it's not abnormal. And so if the same thing happens in the gay community, the problem is that even while men might have eyes for college girls or even high school girls, there's a big difference between that and actually trying to get and take advantage of those girls to have sex with them, which is what these priests are doing. They're going beyond just looking at young boys. They're going after them. But I start to think, well, when I was... I don't even know what age I could go back to, but I know that when I was 15 years old, if an older man had tried to touch me...
You punched him.
Yeah, I would have caused a great big stink over it. And so they say things like, well, they go after boys who don't have strong fathers or things like that. But I've often wondered about this. When is a boy a victim if he's being groomed and then abused by an older gay man? At what point is this just him falling into something he was probably going to do anyway? Mm-hmm. And at what point is it actual abuse? I don't hear many people talking about that.
Yeah, we should be clear because it may come off sounding at this point to our listeners like we're suggesting that the problem in the church, as involves like McCarrick and seminarians, and I'm sure that's not the only example of that happening.
Right.
We shouldn't. It may sound like we're saying we shouldn't be hard on McCarrick for that. Oh well,
right.
See, it wasn't predation.
No.
It wasn't.
It was just him liking younger
victims
men
or whatever.
Yeah.
And we should be clear. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying that therefore we should go easy on him or that what he did wasn't real bad or something like that. It's just
not to mention the fact that McCarrick did go after kids.
Yeah,
and if I understand it right,
to seminarians.
He went after prepubescent kids as well. So I'm not trying to downplay that, but it does bother me when I hear it reported a certain way, and it's not really that way. I have a problem when people bend the truth, and
even if the truth bending seems like it's making the point that you might want to make, it doesn't do any good.
Right. And another part of this is that eventually the secular media is going to talk about these things and say some of the things I'm saying. Nobody would stick up for a priest at this point. But when Pope Francis, after this big thing he's having, the synod, the World Synod, whatever the hell it is, I think he's going to come out of this and support homosexuality. And when that happens, I think the media is going to start reporting these things in a certain way that we ought to be scared of.
Yeah, I mean, because the media will say, "Oh, McCarrick's actions, it was just normal stuff between consenting adults in the seminaries."
Yeah,
that's how they're going to portray this,
and that's not what it was.
We ought to be in front of it by calling it what it really is, so they can't change it.
Yeah, so I guess that's why we're even approaching this subject. So I guess the start of our question is, when does a boy become a victim in terms of being seduced by a man or a woman? And is it different for a man or a woman? Because if you found out your high school age boy had some kind of fling with a female teacher, your reaction is probably, you're not going to call that abuse. You're going to call a woman maybe a little bit crazy and something's wrong with her, but you're not going to claim that your boy was molested.
Not in the same way, yeah.
But that same boy being touched by an older man, even if he
it's
quote consented to it, it's going to be different. But the thing is, that's what they're going to try to erase. The fact that it is different, Mm-hmm. That's why we creep ever closer to the LGBTP. And why...
what I've been saying. The P is going to join the alphabet soup.
Yeah. And we need to be open about this discussion and at least define, if nothing else for ourselves, define what kind of boundaries ought to be there other than the normal Catholic boundary. Because the normal Catholic boundaries is you don't have sex unless you're married.
Don't do it until you're married.
So that's easy enough. But how are we gonna talk about this to the secular media when they try to normalize it? And again, are these guys victims? There was a priest who had gotten into the gay lifestyle and has, I wish I knew his name. I can't remember it. He has since given up the gay lifestyle and is talking around the country about the priesthood and how prevalent homosexuality is in the priesthood. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he talked about is the fact that he was probably since birth, at least since puberty, he was of a certain, he was the kind of guy who was ripe for grooming and changing.
Oh, okay.
You know, he wasn't gay when he was a kid, but he had that personality that would be easy to turn gay. He had certain tendencies that, and I would imagine that a lot of these seminarians, that's where they are. And they're going into a school where they're going to be swearing off sex altogether, possibly because of this and because the fact that they don't feel like they have normal desires. And then here's this priest who's a teacher or whatever and comes and invites them to let loose and do all the things they've been fighting possibly
he
since
says,
day one.
You don't have to swear off sex. You just have to swear off marriage. We got plenty of sex right here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of been well documented that the various seminaries, and I'm going to just point out again, this is under the control of bishops, whether they intended it or not. They were responsible.
Yeah.
You know, the buck stops with them on this. The seminaries were practically recruiting gays to the priesthood.
Yeah, it's like the grooming started from day one when they walked in. It was like, is this going to be an easy kid to turn, or is he just want to be a priest? And they turned down. I've talked to people who left seminaries because of all the gays. So I know this happens, and well, like you said, it's been documented. We all know. Someone outside the Catholic Church wouldn't know. But anyone who really has been paying attention in the past probably 20 years knows that this is a serious problem. And
I think it's one of those that people who, for the past, I'm going to say 60 years, there were those who knew it was a problem, but it was easier to kind of write them off as kooks until about 20 years ago. Yeah.
And now it's like, there are very few straight priests and even fewer straight bishops out there. So we've got a huge problem now. And for men in that lifestyle who have accepted that lifestyle and don't even try to fight it, there seems to be a direct correlation with first grooming and then, molesting younger and younger boys or men, depending on what you want to call them. But, think of it this way. What if I had a gambling problem or a drinking problem? What if I had a drinking problem? Mm-hmm. And someone who's supposed to be teaching me or be my mentor constantly manipulates me in a way that eventually I'm going to take that drink.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's hard not to call that. It's hard to not call me a victim. At the same time, I make my own decisions.
Right.
So I just think it's one of those things we got to be careful with.
But it's like I guess it's a tough thing because I mean, to use the drinking analogy, what if you went to started going to AA meetings and of a certain group, and you find out that AA it's really about not drinking in public at the bars. So the whole point is avoiding bars. But what they do is they have, 70% of the guys in there, they bring their drinks to the meetings, and that's the only place they drink.
Yeah, I should recognize it
or something
right
like that.
Then.
It's like, okay, wait a minute.
I'm not going to get any help here.
Right. But the problem is, and this is why it's such a sticky wicket for, when it comes to the priesthood, is that there is only one priesthood of God.
Yeah.
You to be a priest, you've got to go through the program. You've got to reach the point of being ordained, and so you've got to go through being exposed to this stuff and go through all the natural revulsions and keep your head down about it. There's no other way to become a priest. There's no other way to do what a priest does, which is to give the sacraments to people without that until the seminaries get cleaned up.
And here's the thing about this. I would say I can only go by what I myself know or feel, and by what I see other men do. If I am not the type of person who would be easily groomed, then there is no chance in hell I'm going to be abused.
Right.
Unless he actually chained me down and raped me, that just isn't going to, and I'm not going to turn gay. It's impossible.
Yeah, no, it's like
I cannot turn gay.
If the bishop
I think once you get to
punch him the same way you would the old man in your earlier example.
That's what I think. That's what I imagine. But look, I knew this guy who we were in kind of a 12-step group, and he was, I guess he was close to my age, maybe like 5 years younger than me. And I guess at the time of this event, he was around maybe early 30s. Okay. He was very much a man's man. We swapped fishing stories. He even helped me out with a few fishing problems that I had. He had a job that was masculine that a woman couldn't even do. Mm-hmm. He had a wife. He had a few kids. And he disappeared for a while. And then he came back and we got a chance to talk. I'm very hard of hearing, so I had to listen real closely, and I didn't want to have him repeat it because it was obvious he was telling a story that hurt to tell. Mm-hmm. But what it boiled down to is that he had this uncle who he trusted and had somehow talked him into having sex.
Wow.
Now, I think there were some drugs involved, but not the kind of drugs that are disorienting. Maybe the kind of drugs that would weaken your will a little bit, but nothing that would, not like a ruby or something, you know?
Right. But, not just weaken your will, but cloud your judgment about things?
Maybe, but not majorly, you know?
I'm thinking like make things distort priorities. It's like, you know, if your uncle gets you to feeling like, oh yeah, he's a really great friend, and then the drug has you distorting this priority that
I don't think so.
Doing what your uncle wants is a higher priority than whatever.
I just don't. The kinds of drugs are the same kinds that, as I was a teenager, I experimented with, and nothing like that would ever. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, we're just talking about maybe weed and some alcohol. Nothing like that. And this is a 30-year-old man I'm talking to.
Yeah.
And he obviously thinks this one-time event was a huge deal to where he wasn't even going to come around for a while because he didn't want to talk to anyone about it. Why? So this whole time I'm sitting here thinking that couldn't happen. That guy cannot be a victim. He just gave in to something that he wanted to do anyway. And then I meet this guy and have this story told to me. And he wasn't lying. He never wanted to do it. Maybe there was some kind of tendency there that I didn't know about. But you see what I'm saying?
Not anything you picked up on, knowing him. And
I had a certain way of thinking about all this. And then this guy talks to me, and now I question even that. And I don't know how or where a line should be drawn to when we stop talking about someone as a victim and start talking them as someone who maybe gave in to temptations. And and then that brings us back to these seminaries. You know, these boys are there. They're there for a reason. Obviously, they either feel called by God or they've been recruited because of their tendencies. Yeah. I think a lot of them are there because a lot of the gay men are there because they know that they're not going to get married, and so they don't know what else to do. And they think, well, the priesthood, then I wouldn't have to get married and nobody would question it. Mm-hmm. At least I've heard.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I've heard a seminarian say that to me. But again, I hear it every time it's brought up on like, the Taylor Marshall or the Timothy Gordon show. They'll talk about them as predators, referencing not what they've done to kids, but what they've done to seminarians. And I don't know. Yeah,
I'm still inclined to think that when it comes to seminarians, it's more like there's already a loose atmosphere and a depraved atmosphere in the seminary, and the bishop is taking advantage of that. I mean, he might have to do a little bit of seducing and manipulating in order to get get what he wants.
Yeah.
But he's doing that in an atmosphere where that's what people already do, where the guys already are doing that and where they already expect to do that. And so I'm less inclined to treat those guys as victims.
Yeah, and there are some lawsuits out there from the seminarians. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's one of the big things I question is a lawsuit? Like, if that happened to me, I wouldn't even admit it to anyone, let alone sue them in a public court.
Yeah, but that's where it gets to, think about women who are, pressured by their boss into sex in the workplace or something like that.
Okay.
So, one of the big things that everybody's saying recently is that women are too quiet about that because they feel guilty, they feel it's their fault, they don't speak out enough about it and that kind of stuff. And so I think it might be in line with that kind of thinking that these guys are saying, oh, okay, well then, yeah, we should file some kind of lawsuit the same way a woman would in that situation. And there are, I think even a woman who, say, otherwise is loose, let's say, has a reputation for sleeping around. And then, her boss pressures her, well, you sleep around anyway, how about with me? That kind of a thing. The more we talk about this, the more I realize that, there's all these fuzzy lines between what you would call this and that, but it all boils down to the only workable, right, non-arbitrary standard is the Catholic one.
Yeah.
For appropriate sexual behavior.
Yeah. And these bishops are breaking that, and they've set up a system where they can recruit young men who are likely to break that. And now we've got this gigantic mess. And it's not just in the U.S., it's worldwide. The whole dang church is, as one guy might say, infiltrated by this. It's everywhere. And it's gotten to the point where we don't really know what to do. But we do know that it is very specifically a gay problem.
Yeah.
And whether you want to talk about these guys as victims in the way that a young boy is a victim, or victim in a way that a student or employee is a victim. Because either way, he's in a position of power, and he's, that's the thing. I'd say it would be wrong of him to pressure a girl or a boy or anyone when he's in a position of power. But we already know that's wrong because you shouldn't pressure any. You should just only have sex with the people you're married with, and then that's the only right way, and none of these problems would exist. But when we've accepted the fact that you can sleep around as long as you're consenting, that's one of the problems, is that the secular understanding of sex has crept into the Catholic Church to where they're consenting. Well, he's real young.
Thing. Right.
Yeah, but he's still an adult, so they're consenting. Okay, but it's his boss. But, what if he likes his boss? Like if you worked for an attractive female and how much pressure would she have to exert? So but if we not forget that these are Catholic seminaries and that we're supposed to be training the warriors for God, well, then none of this is acceptable.
Yeah.
And whether we want to call them victims or not, it's still not acceptable on their part or on the priest's part.
Yeah,
I guess that's a big part of this is just passing all of the blame on the older man when you're talking about another adult.
I gotta think, like with this situation with McCarrick, I gotta think that there were plenty of these seminarians who kind of hoped that they would so-called be picked because they felt like, that would put them in a favorable light. And when it came to, once they're actual priests in terms of getting assignments that they want, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, if they're still in school, just the grades and, future prospects and all kinds of things. Yeah, I imagine that is how it is. Because I guess what happens, every now and then there's a guy who not only isn't hoping to be picked, doesn't even understand that this stuff exists.
Yeah.
McCarrick asked him, come to my building. Well, you could sleep in this bed. I'll have a bed for you to sleep in, or I'll have bedclothes or whatever. He was saying all kinds of weird things. And then, well, we're out of bed. You'll have to sleep in the bed with me.
Just weird stuff. It's like...
See, even if I were completely unsuspecting, that's the point at which, what do you mean in bed with you? I'm not sleeping in bed with you. I'll sleep on the floor.
Exactly.
Weirdo.
See, there's a point at which it's like, okay, wait a minute. You're a thinking adult. You can't be that naive.
Yeah. Now, again, some of these priests are going after even grade school kids. And it's in a completely different thing. I'm not trying to say that those cases are not a case of predation. But when we're talking about seminarians, I don't know. I don't think we should talk about it that way, the way it's being discussed. Especially since these men are going in
I see
to train
the problem
as priests.
with McCarrick and the seminaries less as a problem of victimization and more as a problem of promoting the very homosexual culture that has been the problem with the church.
Right.
For the last, 70, maybe even for the last 100 years. I don't know.
Yeah. The problem we've been discussing since this podcast started, I think one of our earliest podcasts discussed this and went in depth to it. And it's precisely because we were talking about the same thing in the 80s and everybody thought we were nuts. So, but here we are.
Now
it's obvious.
Well, yeah, that really
you can't deny this anymore.
That was real. And it's not like it's real now and it wasn't back in the 80s. It was real all along. The people who were nuts were right.
Yeah. One of the things that when I think about McCarrick, you know who I think about is the old man in Oliver Twist? The guy who picks up the orphans because he knows he's going to be able to turn them.
Yeah, and he gets them to, what's his name, Fagin?
I thought Baggin was the other boy.
Was he the boy?
Okay, let's look up.
I thought it was
some
Fagin.
Oliver Twist.
Fagan, I thought was his name.
That could be. No, the young boy is Dodger, I think.
Dodger, that's right. That's right. Yeah, Fagin is the. It's Fagin. Fagin.
Fagin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He has his little band of orphans that he gets them to get adopted by rich people, and then they steal and disappear down a rabbit hole. That was his thing, right? I kind of don't remember the story to tell you the truth.
Well, he started them off with pickpocketing.
Okay.
Here's the thing about a lot of these kinds of books. I'll read it, and at the same time I'm watching movies, and so the movie and the book get crossed up, and I don't know which is which.
Oh.
And so when I talk about it, I can't remember, was this in the movie or was this in the book?
Yeah.
But as much as I hate musicals, I did think Oliver was a good musical.
Oh,
and
okay.
they had a good Fagin. Mm-hmm. But anyway, he's collecting boys because he's collecting orphans.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because he knows that, one, they will be easily turned criminal because they have no other choice. But also, he looks for certain kinds of kids,
Yeah.
And I think our seminaries are looking for certain kinds of men who are going to be easy to groom if they're not already groomed.
Right.
More than likely, a lot of them are just fully gay when they go in.
Yeah.
It's a shame, but, as we keep saying, this all boils down to the bishops. Mm-hmm. The only way to get out of this is through the bishops. The bishops have got to change, and the bishops have got to become men.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to standing up to Pope Francis, because we don't know what he's going to do in this this synod coming up. I don't know. I mean, he can't change church teaching, but
no, but
I feel like something really bad is going to come out of this.
It could be, or it could be that it's another kind of blasé, like
the Amazon
anticlimactic, like the Amazon thing. I mean, the whole bunch of really, really bad stuff happened during the Amazon thing, but then it kind of just fizzled.
In the end, the Amazon Synod did not make any changes not only in church teaching, which we knew it wouldn't, because he can't change church teaching, but it didn't make any changes in the day-to-day operations of most parishes. Mm-hmm. At most, more people are allowed to take communion than ought to be. But I would say his motu proprio was more evil than his Amazon Synod.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to say because of the idolatry.
Some elements, like the whole idolatry. Or,
that was
the
bad.
Pachamama, dancing to the Pachamama and putting them in St. Peter's, stuff like that.
But at most, that encourages bad behavior. The motu proprio is trying to choke out good behavior.
It's an ecclesial act. It's trying to, exactly. It's trying to rob the faithful of
it's outright evil.
Access to, like you said, good behavior.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still going to Latin Mass, and again, in the front pew, I see sometimes up to 12 young men who are obviously part of some kind of order who want to become priests. Mom explained it to me that they don't have, that they're not normalized yet. They're waiting for some kind of canonical event to happen. Mm-hmm. And it looked like it was going to happen under Pope Benedict. And then Pope Francis came, and they just kind of flatlined it. And it was like, things were building up to a point where he was going to have an order. And now they're just a bunch of guys sitting there.
And they're not even ordained yet?
Yeah, I don't believe they are. They're really young.
Man, that would suck so bad.
I know. And these guys, you can see the love for the Eucharist in their eyes when they go to receive communion. And it's like these guys want to serve God, and they're not being allowed. And they know they could probably go to, I don't know, another seminary, and they can become parish priests or something, maybe, if they're gay enough to pass in the seminaries. But that's where we are at this point. And I just wanted to have at least one podcast where we discuss this whole idea of seminarians being preyed upon, because I just don't see it that way.
Yeah, I think largely
I know it can happen.
But here's the thing. Yeah, and there might be a few that were, depending on their backgrounds or whatever, it may be that it was an ongoing kind of victimization that just extended from their life at home into the seminary or something like that. possible, but I think you're right for the most part. But here's the thing that really is kind of the burning question to me. Have we turned the tide yet?
Are we
in terms of the seminaries?
Are we getting better?
Are the seminaries less filled with homos now?
I don't know of any way of finding that out. I do give hats off to the Bishop Schnurr here in Cincinnati, because the first thing he did, and this is after Pilarczyk left. Well, we had Pilarczyk, and then we had Daniel for a little while, but I think Daniel was completely useless and didn't accomplish anything. But Pilarczyk, and before him, who's the robe guy, the seamless garment guy?
Bernardin. Yeah, he was Cincinnati before Pilarczyk, wasn't he?
Yeah. So we had, between Bernardin and Pilarczyk, that's throughout all those years is when the seminaries turned gay, and Daniel did nothing, and then Schnurr came in, and I have witnesses that say he the first thing he announced that he was going to do is clean that up, and he did. Now, how clean it is, I have no idea. I do know some guys who are wanting to go to seminary and start training to be a priest, and they're not gay, so and they seem comfortable going there. But I don't, how would you know something like that?
Yeah, that's true.
I guarantee you, it's not cleaned up in Chicago.
Yeah, I know that's the thing. It's like it depends so much on where you are now.
It first depends on whether or not you've got an evil bishop, and then on whether or not you have a brave bishop. Because he's got to be not evil, and then he has to be brave.
He has to be manly.
Yeah. And if you got a masculine bishop, maybe your seminaries are starting to get cleaned up. If not, you've got the same thing going on everywhere. It's not just in America. It's happening in Rome. It's happening obviously in Germany.
In Germany, that they're filled.
I don't know if there are any straight priests in Germany.
Yeah.
There have to be.
There's got to be some, because everywhere there's got to be people that God calls to the priesthood, and they sincerely love God and want to serve Him in that way, and they have to then suffer through the seminary in order to do that. But then they've got to suffer under their bishops too. Yeah,
that's the thing. There might be priests out there who actually have to hide their heterosexuality. I don't know.
Do that.
No, I didn't.
Stick your pinky out when you're drinking in a bar or something.
Yeah. When a girl walks by, he's like, "Did you look at her?" No, I didn't look at her. No, I ain't got no interest in that. I saw you staring at her. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Be just like being married, I guess. I don't like tall blondes with large bosoms. I hate that.
Then you get to your wife saying, "Hey, I see you're not staring at that woman. It's because you think she's hot."
Oh yeah. I see how you're avoiding that girl.
Yeah.
Why are you avoiding her so much? You don't even want to be. Oh well.
Anyway, but yeah, it is down to the bishops. I think that's the point. There may be certain dioceses where the tide is turning. I kind of doubt that the tide is turning worldwide considered, though.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe turning. It may be like just barely starting, but I don't think we're out of the woods worldwide yet.
No, and you know what?
And there's going to be more abuse going on as we go forward because of it.
Yeah, it's going to get worse and worse. Where I think the cleaning up is actually happening is in places where the TLM are very strong.
Yeah.
I'll bet you see a pretty strong correlation in those geographic areas.
Right. The stronger the TLM, the better the seminaries are.
Of course, I guess that's not saying much, because if you have a bishop who's allowing the TLM to grow, It's also the same bishop who would be cleaning up the seminaries.
Right.
So I guess it doesn't say much, but the correlation is there, I'll bet. All right.
But, you know, I don't...
talking about... No?
Let me just make this point, though. The correlation is certainly there, but I don't think there's necessarily... I mean, because we do believe in the power of prayer and the power of grace, I don't think it's necessarily just the obvious correlation that you stated. Because remember, I mean, Cincinnati was ground zero for a significant TLM effort. And they accomplished that, and they got the TLM under Pilarczyk. And they've been pouring those graces on the city, and now they have Bishop Schnurr.
And even without the official TLM, the SSPX were pretty strong in Cincinnati.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, there was a big group.
There were a lot of masses being said. Now, the men saying them may have been in schism, and some of them may have been, illicit in terms of
Well, they weren't in schism until, what, like 1980 something?
Yeah, like 80s? When the bishop, right, when Lefebvre consecrated named the 4 bishops. But but
so even before then,
it's still the holy sacrifice of the Mass.
Right. And that
grace could very... I mean, Schnurr could be a result of, his providential...
right.
What do you call it? Charge of Cincinnati could be a result of all of those TLM masses. So, I think that may be an important aspect of it.
In Chicago, I know there's a strong TLM crowd who are really upset at Cupich. For his limitations of the TLM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Chicago's such a corrupt city anyway that...
Yeah, it's like corruption just seeps out of every...
You need a lot more of
every
those.
sewer lid out there. Yeah. Yeah, it's just... Okay. What about now?
I think we're done.
Okay. I don't know. I think one of the topics we were going to do, but we might do next week or the week after that, we're going to talk about the odd... See, we've talked about wimpy men, and so we have to do one on girls too. But there seems to be a growing tendency of women to just absolutely despise men. And it seems like the more manly they are, the more they despise them. And you saw this. You saw this especially during the BLM protests.
Right.
Those were mostly white women.
Uh-huh.
And they just absolutely hated. And it wasn't just white men, because they would go after black men too.
Right.
You could, there's videos of it. But there's something going on with women. The same way there's something going on with men. And, with men, we had an answer. Well, this is what may have caused the problem, but this is definitely how to solve it. Right. I don't so much have an answer for that.
Yeah, but we can at least kind of explore it and try to characterize it and
talk
put the right
about
questions
maybe
out
possible
there.
Causes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I guess we'll get to news. Let me put my little marker. Daggone it. Here's the thing. So on my recording software, I have a button that I press to put a little marker. So I know to come back here and either edit it or start the news music, something like that.
Oh, right.
That same button on my other screen, I have OneNote open, and I've got all my notes here. And when I press that same button, it opens up it reopens OneNote, so that by the end of the show, I've got like 6 instances of OneNote open, all on the same page. It's just, I keep accidentally opening OneNote.
Instead of putting the mark on the recording.
Yeah. I got to figure out a way to change the settings so that Control M does not open OneNote again.
Did you put that yourself, or was that a built-in?
That's one of theirs.
Oh, okay.
So I imagine it's changeable because you can change in most of Microsoft Office programs. You can change the settings of key shortcuts.
Right. And I know, well, like, for example, it's really easy, like, if you've got a shortcut to something to just assign a shortcut. If you've got a link to something, it's easy to assign a keyboard shortcut to it.
But you know what? I've got, like, so, for instance, when I was doing the Shakespeare stuff, actually, I'm doing Macbeth right now. So I take the text of the play, just straight text, and paste it into Word.
Right.
And then, as I'm going through changing the styles of whether, say, it's a character or an action or dialogue, I have different styles I use, and I use the same. Instead of pressing on the style, I create shortcut keys.
Yeah.
And sometimes I create shortcut key combinations. For example, it might change the style and then backspace one so that it joins the previous paragraph, and change the style of that one as well, and then say Shift Enter to go to the next line, then change the style again, so that, and I create all kinds of weird shortcuts. Some of them are like 6 or 7 key combos.
Yeah.
With what's the name of that program? I don't remember. Hotkey, I think is the name of it. You can set up key shortcuts that will do. You can do all kinds of things like open programs and stuff like that. It's pretty neat. All right, news. Russia. We got all kinds of little stories like 4 civilians are reported to have been killed by Russian military in Oblast. They keep coming up with these stories about 4, 6, 12 people are
I have yet to hear injured. The first story that reports more than 50.
Yeah, and in war, I mean,
in a war, that's what you expect, especially a war
when we were in Vietnam,
civilian areas, an invasion of a country.
Yeah, and it's not just civilian areas; it's cities.
Yeah, so you'd expect there to be hundreds, cities. But I haven't.
There's millions of people
heard
there.
An incident that involves more than 50. Yeah,
right.
I don't even think it's gotten close to 50.
Okay, so they're saying that they have recovered 1,222 bodies.
Okay.
In Kiev Oblast. And actually, they're saying they've discovered a mass grave.
Oh. Like that they're claiming
they're
Russians
calling it
made?
A mass grave. Mass grave where Russian civilians were buried. But then when you go read the article, they'll say a mass grave where dozens of civilians were found buried. Now, there's dozens of civilians buried up the street in the cemetery.
Yeah.
A mass grave, I think of like during the Nazis.
Right. A great big
they put
pit
thousands
with
of them.
Just bodies piled on top of each other. And so, are they talking about Ukrainian civilians?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're saying
you
Ukrainian civilians.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So Ukrainian
they're
civilians saying that they say were killed by the Russians.
That they say were killed by the Russians. At the same time, I saw stories of Russians claiming that they had uncovered mass graves of civilians, claiming that it was the Ukrainian government killing their own people, and saying this is why we might have to attack. That was a story that I read, a year ago.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know. The mass grave of dozens, and now they're saying that they've recovered up to 1,222 bodies. Still, 1,222 bodies in one city is not that much during a war. Because we bombed villages in Vietnam that had much more than 1,222 civilians die, and plenty of women and children. So I don't know why suddenly 1,222 is a big number, but in a city of millions. Okay, Russia says it will end their invasion if Zelensky agrees to conditions set during negotiations. So he's been given a set of negotiations. They'll say, we'll leave if you do this. A legal guarantee that Ukraine will not join NATO, and they have to actually put that in their constitution. It will be impossible to join NATO. And they suspended operations in Kiev as a goodwill gesture in order to promote further peace talks. So
I wonder how that would work. So I'm just going to parse through the dynamics here. So you've got a country, they presumably have a constitution, because he's talking about putting something in the constitution. Now, I know that in the United States, in order for the constitution to change, the resolution has to be prepared by Congress. It has to be, submitted and passed, signed by the president. It goes to the states. 3/4 of all the states, I think it's 3/4 of all the states, have to approve the amendment through their own legislatures. And then it becomes part of the Constitution. Makes it very difficult to change the Constitution, and it's supposed to be. There's good reasons for that.
Yeah.
So you take a country like this, and how does their Constitution get changed? Is it just because Zelensky says, okay, now this is part of the Constitution?
I don't know.
Is it just because they have a parliament who can just modify the Constitution? And if it can be changed that easily, then why would Russia trust that it can't just be changed back by the next regime?
Well, it's possible that in order to change it, they would have to do that publicly, and Russia would know, they're trying to join NATO again. I guess we're coming in.
Well, yeah, that's my point, though.
Maybe.
Why would Russia think that they're not going to have to reinvade in 10 years under the next regime?
Well, okay, here's the thing, and I guess maybe I should start looking into this, because a lot of what they're claiming is the fact that because of alliances, especially with America, that we're putting all these laboratories in Ukraine, the ones that were outlawed in America, like the ones that are in China now that created COVID.
Oh, like the viral
We've
labs
got a bunch of
stuff.
those in Ukraine. Yeah, they've got biolabs there, and it's like, this is mainly what the Russians are trying to change.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's true. There's some indication that when they go in and then they leave again, what they actually did was dismantled the biolab.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Now, I don't
That's
I don't
an
know.
angle
I should
haven't
look
heard
into
yet.
this. But, it's kind of a thing right now, is that really what Russia is doing, because there are viruses that were created to attack specific races, or not even a race, specific nationalities.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And
based on the
they
genetics.
they were making viruses that would attack Russians.
Oh, wow. Is that confirmed? I mean, does our intelligence...
No, I don't. Not by me. I don't. You hear things and it's like, I don't know. I gotta go look that up if I ever want to talk about it. And so places like Infowars.com, you'll see reports of it there. So as far as I'm concerned, it's unconfirmed. But here's the thing. Everything coming out of Russia and Ukraine is unconfirmed.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There's nothing, even the stuff that's reported in the main news. You see something on CNN, well, you know what? You really have to treat that as unconfirmed.
Yeah.
Heck, the stuff coming out of our own government right now is unconfirmed.
Right.
I mean, you can't trust anything that comes, say, out of a White House press conference.
Yeah. Or anything that comes from CNN, MSNBC,
right,
or even Fox News at this point.
Yeah.
Who can you trust? I don't know. I can't see how Infowars is any less trustable than CNN, because here's the thing. Some of the guys at Infowars might be a little nuts, but all of the guys at CNN are liars.
Well, that's true.
CNN is purposely trying to trick us. Mm-hmm. Maybe some of the people at InfoWars is too, but it seems like not.
You've got your choice of rock solid sane liars, or in some cases
someone who doesn't really know the
slightly
truth.
Nutty honest people, or at least presumably honest.
And I guess when we do the talk about women in America today, we're going to bring up Alex Jones. I've been a long time ago. His name came up, and I listened to clips from him, and I thought, well, this guy's a nut because he yells a lot. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the clips were very specific clips that people want to show. Here's what this guy says. I think one of the school shootings where the somebody came in and shot up a school, an elementary school. Maybe it was even a kindergarten school. I don't remember, but he had denied that. Uh-huh. He had said it didn't really happen, that it was all a hoax.
Oh, wow.
Now, it seems like he's taken that back. But if you mention Alex Jones, that's what gets talked about.
Oh, that's what people...
Well, he's...
Okay.
So he's a mass shooting denier, despite the fact that he admitted he was wrong about that. Mm-hmm. But it was just early in the days when everyone was talking about it, he questioned whether or not it really happened.
Yeah.
So, right away, since Jason actually knew a guy whose little girl died in that school shooting, and here's this guy denying it ever happened, I immediately wrote him off.
Oh, right.
Well, I've been hearing the name more and more, and I'm starting to look at the things he's actually said. And I saw videos where people say the 10 most craziest predictions or prophecies from Alex Jones. And it's like half of them were true. Oh. Half of them we know are true.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I mean, I would delete that video if I were them, mm-hmm. because it's embarrassing how right he was on a lot of things. So, I don't know. How do we get into that?
Oh, because we were talking about confirmed stories about stuff.
Confirmed stories. So what's confirmed? I don't know what confirmed is.
No such thing anymore, practically.
Yeah. So the governor of Oblast is saying that Russians came in and completely flattened their hospitals. All the hospitals in the city, or in the province. Russia is denying that. They are saying that actually Ukrainians are the ones who blew everything up.
Huh. So, maybe not. That could go either way for me,
Yeah.
I could see where if the hospitals were centers of research for this virology program that you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, why specifically hospitals and not other kinds of institutions?
Yeah, why not movie theaters or schools or churches?
Schools or training.
What is it about hospitals that they seem to... that even the Ukrainians are admitting that they're targeting. So it's like, okay, well, maybe you could tell us why. Maybe you know why and you're not saying. So U.S. House of Representatives votes 420-3 to pass legislation that will suspend normal trade relations with Russia and Belarus. The Senate votes 100-0 to pass the legislation.
Suspend
normal trade relations.
With Belarus and who?
Russia.
Okay.
So they're predicting all these shortages, but they're causing the shortages because there's another story, and I can't remember where it was. I think in Iowa, they're killing off like 10,000 chickens because of the H5N1 virus.
Oh, in Iowa?
Yeah.
So like
here in America,
it's in America
we
are
now. Calling. Yeah, but the thing is that this virus doesn't affect human beings, and it doesn't kill all the birds that it attacks.
Oh.
So why are we killing them off?
Because...
Why not just let them have it?
Because they're afraid that if it completely infects the whole bird population, it could mutate into something that would infect human beings.
Okay.
I think that's where the original bird flu, the bird flu in 1918 was something like that. Although we didn't have the genetic technology to be able to
I do know
prove
one thing today. I went to get chicken breasts today so I could make quesadillas or quesadillas. Make yourself a dang quesadilla. But they were real short.
Oh,
I was lucky to get any chicken breast
too?
at all.
I mean, is the price going up?
The prices hadn't gone up.
Can't find them. Okay.
I mean, a little bit. Like the price is going up on everything because we keep printing money, but no, they weren't price gouging. So if they'd price gouge, maybe we would have more.
Yeah.
You know, people would be like, "Well, I don't want to spend that much on chicken breast."
For now.
But people who are willing to spend that much because they have a big party planned or something will have enough chicken. Mm-hmm. We need to get rid of this weird way of looking at price gouging.
Yeah.
I mean, it's supply and demand. Why is that bad?
We should let that law work.
Yeah. Let's see. We did that one. I am not going to read that one because it's stupid. Former German Justice Minister, and I'm going to try to say that name, file complaint with German federal prosecutors accusing Russian President Vladimir Putin, all 32 members of the Security Council of Russia, and the members of the Russian armed forces of committing war crimes in Ukraine. Now, okay,
is the war crime just because they invaded Ukraine?
I think that's really
odd. Specific acts
well, I think they're claiming something, but I think we got to be careful here and just absolutely demand real evidence when they start claiming these things, because this can turn into a great big, hanging party where we just hang everyone who's Russian. Why? Because they attacked Ukraine, but without getting any kind of proof of anything. And every time they show us evidence of wrongdoing by the Russians to the Ukrainians, we find out that it's fake.
Yeah.
They're using actors in some of the videos. They're showing videos that were taken 5 years ago and claiming that it's, Russians, what would they call them? Portable crematoriums.
Oh, mm-hmm.
They're burned, they got these trucks that are set up to burn bodies. And here we're looking at a video from 10 years ago of a garbage truck.
Yeah. So
it's just, I hope.
It's going to turn into a mob lynching,
basically. I hope they're careful about this. I don't think they will be. But again, and we've got all kinds of stories of all the sanctions being placed against them, all the banks running against them, and them having to go with their own currency now. And I gotta say, we are making Russia stronger because we're isolating them, and they will no longer be dependent on the New World Order and the global banks. They will not worry about global control anymore because they're not under that thumb. Mm-hmm. I think I don't know. I don't know if they know this. I guess they have. They must have thought of this. The globalists, I mean.
Yeah. Well,
they must have thought, well, if we isolate them, did they think Russia was just going to give in?
I think sometimes that they may overestimate the either the direct power they have, or underestimate, let's say overestimate the dependence that significant parts of the world have on the global arrangements, the global economy, or whatever you want to call it, the global system.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't know. They're gonna. I think they're gonna be sorry, but we'll see what happens. All kinds of unusual things have happened now. Pope Francis has consecrated Russia and Ukraine to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Now, some people would say, yeah, who cares? He's not the real Pope. Yeah. I don't know. It's my understanding that Pope Benedict did it as well. So, I don't know. I think it happened. And I I think something completely unexpected is going to come out of all this, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know what that is, but it would be really cool because I know people who have said, I'm going to leave the Catholic Church and go to the Russian Orthodox because the Russian Orthodox is more traditional. And I try to tell them, yeah, but they're not the real church, number one. Number two, they're not real traditional. They've given in on several big things. For example, contraception. It's my understanding that they've given in on that. And a couple other things.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
but anyway, this is a group of traditional men, the priests in the Russian Orthodox Church. Wouldn't it be cool if suddenly they all became Catholic priests and a new fervor took over the East that would change everything.
And it's not like they would have to become Roman. There would have to be an understanding with the Russian patriarch that normalizes them under the rule of Rome.
Yeah, and then we could all go to the Byzantine Mass or whatever they would have.
Yeah,
I guess
the
Russian Orthodox would have their own Mass. Yeah. They would probably keep the same Mass that they're saying.
I would think
they would have permission to say it.
Day-to-day life for actual Russian Orthodox people would not change if such a thing happened.
Yeah.
The day-to-day religious life.
Right. President Biden calls Russian war in Ukraine a genocide. I don't know why he's calling that.
Genocide?
Again, we got accusation, first for war crimes, and now genocide.
When there's a genocide, you have hundreds of thousands of bodies.
Yeah, we've got 1,200.
And that's the only one that has
genocide.
Even a significant number.
And that's just a claim.
Yeah, that's a
there's no actual evidence that there's
that's an unconfirmed
1,200
claim.
bodies. Yeah, this is crazy. The kind of accusations that are coming out of this, and that's why I know that I hate to act like I'm for Russia. I'm not, but
it's just I hate the stupid reporting.
They're lying. I'm tired of being lied to,
Yeah.
and if you're going to lie to me, then I'm going to assume that something else is true.
Tell the doggone truth.
Yeah, and we're sending all kinds of more stuff to Ukraine to help them fight. But again, we're not fighting for them. Mm-hmm. And I'd say that says something huge.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all the news about Russia. We got that new Supreme Court justice.
Yeah.
Ketanji Brown Jackson. Yeah. It's a shame.
But we knew...
But
we were going to get some kind of liberal,
happen.
And some kind of kookball, because Biden's the one. It's going to be one kookball after another, with Biden being the one nominating them.
But if we hadn't had some of the rhinos betray us,
I know
we might have stopped it. So
that one might have been stopped.
Shame on them. Yep. They're bad people. DHL Boeing. DHL, I guess they're talking about the company DHL.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a Boeing 757 plane breaks into two parts after making an emergency landing in San Jose, Costa Rica.
I saw that. In fact,
did?
I saw about that.
Yeah.
I was tempted to include that in my segment, but I didn't.
Oh, okay. Well, I got
so
you
covered.
Got it. Yeah.
It's weird. Post the link, because it's a kind of, it's like, wow, that, you don't expect planes to do that.
Right. Yeah. Around 2 million people in Puerto Rico are without electricity because of a fire at one of the island's largest power plants.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, man dies after ramming his vehicle into the fence of the Russian embassy in Bucharest, Romania, and setting himself on fire.
Well, people who set themselves on fire usually die.
They often die. It's announced that over 5,000 new species of previously undiscovered RNA viruses were found in ocean-living organisms, and proposed to group them into a new phyla, according to a paper published in Science.
Huh.
A phyla is Isn't that a classification of life?
Well, it is. So, like, you've got the broadest, they what they call kingdoms. That's like plants and plant kingdom, animal kingdom. What I think they call now monaras, which are like a lot of the single-celled organisms and stuff. They don't consider them plants or animals.
Okay.
And then
one
under that, I think, is the phyla. So, like, among animals, you've got chordates, I think, which are know animals with a backbone. Let me see what the classification.
So what phyla are they talking? What kingdom would they be described under? It's a virus. They're not. I mean, it's my understanding that you could arguably say viruses are not alive. They are not lives.
Yeah, there are some who don't even. I mean, there are disputes among biologists whether to consider viruses to even be living or not.
That's the thing. I guess what I would say is viruses aren't even alive.
For example, biologyquestionsananswers.com question: to which kingdom do viruses belong? The answer that this website says is viruses are not considered true living things, therefore they are not classified under any of the kingdoms.
Yeah, so how can they have a phyla if there's no king? You have to give them a kingdom first.
Not necessarily,
because
I mean you can take a classification of non-living things and call one of those levels a phylum.
What? Kingdom of non-living things?
Yeah, I mean, like viruses. I mean, just because they're non-living and don't belong to one of the 5 biological kingdoms doesn't mean that you can't give them some kind of taxonomy, some kind of layers of classification, right?
But
one of those layers, you could just call it phylum.
Call it phylum.
Yeah. A phyla is a phylum. A phylum just refers to a layer of classification. That's all it means. It's a layer of classification. You say, what phyla does that? Okay. What phylum does that belong to? Well, that you're just saying. But at that layer of classification.
But that's a layer, right?
It's a layer. Okay, wait a minute. But layers can apply to non-living things too. That's my point.
Yeah, I know, but not in the life classification system that we use. The biological classification system.
I know, but my point is,
there's nothing in there now that doesn't have life.
I know,
right?
But the word phylum is just a name. You could apply it to other things too.
I know, but they're talking about giving it its own phyla in the life classification system. Okay. And if you're going to do that, then you have to put it in a kingdom.
Okay. You know what? I'm reading it on Wikipedia right now. So you've got
maybe my reporter got it wrong.
They are their own kingdom. As a kingdom, they're not considered living, but
I see.
But they still then have the standard classification under that kingdom with subkingdom, phylum, subclass, order, family, and genus and species.
So there are already phyla of viruses.
Yeah.
I see.
So that means there must be 6 kingdoms, confused. At least 6 kingdoms, 5 of them of living things, and then virus in addition to those.
Or there's not 6 kingdoms, there's 5, and then there's also a kingdom of viruses.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah,
okay. Well, they found a whole bunch of new RNA viruses. I don't know what the difference between an RNA virus and a DNA virus is, but
just that the RNA viruses have RNA inside of them, and a DNA virus has actual DNA inside of it.
Okay. I don't know much about viruses.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. We did that one. So, Food and Agricultural Organization's food price index increases by 13% in March to an all-time record amid fallout from Russian invasion of Ukraine.
No, it's not.
I know. It's
fallout
BS.
from
They're blaming
stupid Biden and the Democrats mucking with the economy by printing money.
I think this is what the whole damn thing is about. Let's get into a war without really getting into it, and then claim all the economic problems we're having are because of the war. And it's stupid.
Yeah, that is so stupid.
That's one thing I know they're lying about. We were going through inflation, crazy inflation, long before Russia attacked Ukraine. That's so stupid. Do you know that whole plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan?
Oh yeah, the one that was concocted and put together and moved along by the FBI, so that they could round up a few guys that they were, they created this plot and they moved it along, and then they turned around and arrested a few of the guys that were following them in the plot, because the real leaders of the plot were FBI agents and informants. Yeah, the whole thing's insane. Well, 2 of the defendants have been acquitted by juries. All right, good. The other 2 defendants ends in a hung jury, so that's good too. Well, that is good. The government then has to decide whether to retry them. But they should have been acquitted. Yeah. Israeli soldiers raid a refugee camp in Jenin because I guess there was the Tel Aviv shooting. Oh, was there a shooting in Tel Aviv? I don't know what shooting that is. I wasn't aware of that. I guess. And Palestinian Islamic Jihad member is killed, 13 other people injured. I guess they're saying that's who the shooter was. And in retaliation for that, a group of around 100 Palestinian rioters vandalized the tomb of Joseph. Oh, wow. I didn't know we knew where Joseph's tomb was. I know he's buried in the... I mean, if we could find the tomb of Abraham, there's a plot of land that the Bible refers to Abraham buying in order to use it as a place to be buried in. And Joseph was buried in the same place. Oh, was he? His bones were brought up from Egypt in order to be buried. I didn't even know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know we knew where any of that was. But they went and vandalized Joseph's tomb. Couple of Israelis are shot by these rioters, and they set fire inside several of the chambers, and I guess I don't know what's happened after that. I don't know. I guess the Israelis put a stop to it, I guess. But they did get in there and they did cause some fires and shoot a couple of the Israelis. 25 people are killed during floods and landslides during a tropical storm Megi, M-E-G-I, in the Philippines. Okay. 25 people. Wow. That scares the heck out of me, the thought of being killed in a landslide. Whether mud or even an avalanche, like snow. Yeah, an avalanche is just as scary. I would not go in the mountains while there's snow. Possibility. That scares me. 25 people. Let's see, there's 25 people. 25 people in a mudslide from a tropical storm. That's more than were shot when they blew up an entire city in Ukraine. I know, that's what I was thinking. It's like this incident of nature kills more people than these deliberate acts of war. Oh, well, that's nothing. In South Africa, mainly in the city of Durban, there's a flood that kills 250 people and leaves many more people missing. Wow. So probably a few more to end up being confirmed dead at some point. Prayers in South Africa. Yep. And also in New Guinea, there's the New Guinea island of New Britain. There's an earthquake, magnitude 6.3. Wow. The Oklahoma governor signs a law into the state illegalizing abortion, criminalizing abortion. Wow, just period? No qualifications? Well, maybe mother's health is the only thing. Oh, okay. But as we know, but not like before exist. A certain weeks, or after a certain weeks or anything like that. Right. Just plain criminalizes it. All right. Well, okay. Way to go. Anyone caught doing that can face a fine of $100,000 and up to 10 years in prison. Okay. It's a start. Yeah. We'll see how it holds up. So I guess the same... Yeah. Well, we'll find out this summer. We need to pray for that to go right. I think the
the future of our country hangs in that balance. I don't think we have a future
if we don't uphold these.
The Supreme Court doesn't do their job. I guess the San Francisco Giants hired like the first woman coach, field coach.
Huh.
So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, I think that's so stupid.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the coach doesn't actually play the game, but still.
Yeah, I know, but it's just
like, come on.
Can you imagine a female coach like egging you on? Come on, go! It's like,
yeah, okay, Mom, I know.
Knock it off. Yeah. HD1, the furthest known galaxy, is discovered 13.5 billion light years away from Earth. Now, last week
there was a star that we saw, an individual star that we saw
28 billion light years away.
Yeah, but I think that was a misprint because I found another one that was like less than half that.
Okay. It must be. It has to be. I mean, because if we found a single star, that would have to belong to a galaxy, and we call that galaxy something.
Yeah, but to be able to distinguish one star within a galaxy, think how massively huge that star has to be.
Especially when it's 28 billion light years away.
Maybe way out at the beginning of the universe, there were individual stars that weren't part of galaxies, and then as they blew up or burned out or whatever, and the various gases left over became galaxies.
Or maybe there are stars that are as big as galaxies.
Yeah, they had some statistics on that one from last week. How many times as big as the sun and that kind of stuff. I didn't think it was quite big enough to be as big as a galaxy, but who knows? Maybe there are small galaxies too that it could be.
Right. That's all the news I got.
All right. Well, I've got a little bit of news. Actually, I've got 2, 3, 4. Usually I only do 4. I ended up with 5. I was going to do 6, but I dropped one. But we didn't do it last week, so I've got a few more than usual. Okay, so first of all, and this is actually kind of cool, the Texas governor, have you heard about what he's doing?
No.
He decided that he's going to go ahead and all these illegal immigrants that the U.S. government is insisting are to be allowed into the United States, and they're saying, no, Texas, you can't close the border because that's part of INS and Homeland Security.
Oh, yeah.
And so he's saying, all right, I'm going to make them your problem. You can deal with them. So the governor of Texas is chartering buses and allowing any of the immigrants who want to come into the United States to go ahead and hop on a bus and go to Washington, D.C. The first bus...
There you go.
The first bus has arrived in Washington, D.C.
That's awesome.
That is truly awesome.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
That's the way.
Washington and Virginia.
Here you go, Biden. You deal with them. Okay.
One big happy.
Now, this... you hear these stories about someone doing something weird, and it's like somebody said, "Oh, give me 5 lottery tickets," and they accidentally print 6, and this, okay, well, go ahead and give me the 6th one too, then, and then that one ends up being some kind of a winner and stuff like this. So this is one of those. So a woman was going to press a button, I guess, on one of these lottery machines,
like a kiosk,
yeah. And he kind of jostled her, and she pressed the wrong button, and she ended up accidentally buying a $30 scratch off instead of, I guess she usually gets lower cost ones than that. And he didn't even say anything, just walked out the door. Well, turns out the ticket was a $10 million winner.
$10 million? You can win $10 million from a kiosk?
Yeah. Well, it's the scratch offs.
Wow.
It's the same scratch offs that you can buy up at the counter.
I didn't know you could win that much from those.
Yeah.
I thought you could win like 1,000 or even 10,000, but I didn't know you could win millions.
Well, they have.
That's
I guess
incredible.
talks about she meant to buy a lower cost ticket, so it must be that the cost of the ticket relates to how much you can win.
Yeah. Yeah. What is that? Is that me?
Is what you? I hear a kid.
No, it wasn't a kid. It was a video that I didn't mean to pull up that got pulled up from your link.
Yeah. Do you remember? Well, I guess you wouldn't have known. You were probably in college when he was hanging around. There's a little kid named Scat that used to hang around with Jason. Really?
And
you had a friend named Scat?
Yeah, the SCATT maybe. I don't know. That was his name. I don't even know if that was his real name.
That's a name for
I don't know. Well,
maybe that's how his parents felt about him.
No, I don't know where they got him.
I don't remember.
But they had a whole stack of fake lottery tickets.
Oh, okay.
And you would scratch it off, and they would show you winning like $10,000 or $50,000.
But they were all fake.
And they would, and they would go leave them in a restaurant and just watch and wait, and little brats. They saw one guy quit his job, like the Wendy's worker.
Like they were watching.
He was,
and he quit his job.
Yeah, they left it on a table at Wendy's, and the guy came out to clean, and he found it, and he's like, "Hey guys, I quit." I think he came back like 5 minutes later. No, I don't quit. I'm sorry.
Oh, he has to crawl back.
Yeah.
That's kind of mean.
Kids are mean.
Yeah.
But I think you could still get them.
Oh, okay.
I've been thinking about getting
kind of like joke things. There's probably something on them, something in the print that if you looked at it, it identifies itself as like entertainment only or something like that.
Right. It's all worded to make it sound official, but every single sentence on there, it's like, it's officially not real. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
All you have to do is read it, but most people don't. They just
see the number. Well, the thing is, it's like, Terry likes to do these scratch-offs. I don't know why, but it's like, it's not even that you just scratch off and it says, here's how much you won. It's more like, you got to do this game where you do, and then and if you can find 3 of these, and then you look up in this table and see how much it's really like.
Yeah, I know. Because I found one once, and I was scratching off trying to figure out. I just scratched everything off, and Vicky's like, "No, you can't do it that way."
So why not?
Oh, okay.
Well, you know what I apparently you can do is there's like a little thing at the bottom where you scratch off, and there's a QR code, and you just scan that and see what you won. You don't have to scratch any of it off.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
It's like
I was cleaning our house one time, and I found like $300 or $400 bills.
Oh wow!
And I was like, "Oh, cool!" I knew it's conceivable to find that in my house because sometimes I come home with cash from a job or whatever, and then it gets put up, and I think Vicky spent it, and she thinks I spent it, so there it is. So I thought that was one of these cases, and I went to the drive-thru to get a pack of cigarettes and handed her my 100.
Yeah.
And she just looked at it for a second. She's like, "Why are you giving me this?" I said, "That's the smallest bill I have, I swear." And she's like, "This isn't a bill. Will you read this?" It was a fake. It wasn't even real money. It didn't even say it was real money. It just had the 100 on there.
That's funny. Why are you giving me this?
I guess
she thought there was some deeper joke there that she was missing.
Or she thought that I was trying to trick her, and it's like, no, I was not trying to trick you. I did not know what this was. I promise I was not trying to trick you guys.
All right. So next up, so Mike Tyson wants to sell ear-shaped cannabis gummies. Now, you would think that the problem would be in the cannabis, but that's not the case. The problem, the reason it ran afoul of the law, is because you're not allowed to sell cannabis in shapes that may be attractive or interesting to children, and as a general classification of that includes shapes of humans, animals, fruits, or other images that could attract children. So apparently, because it's a human part, that's what ran him afoul of the law, not the fact that it's gummy cannabis.
Are children attracted to ear-shaped candy?
I don't know. I've never heard of that in my life. I don't know. Like I know we used to bite the ears off of Easter bunnies because they're chocolate, and it was a place where you could get your mouth around it. But I don't know, ear gummies. If I saw an ear gummy, on the shelf at a gas station, on the candy shelf, it'd be like, I don't think so.
I would have no interest in that.
I would look right past it.
Yeah, ear gummies. I mean, the things they find wrong with things that are wrong astound me.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Insane.
It's like, okay, yeah, I can understand why you shouldn't be allowed to sell that, but not for that reason.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Oh, well. And, okay, so next up, and this is just one of those, I don't know, I guess the stupidity over COVID, including the sort of mad rush to push everybody to get vaccinated is just creating the most bizarre black markets. And this fella apparently made his shoulder a black market. He's received about 90 shots. What he would do is he would go in with somebody's card and receive the shot for them and get the officiating mark on the card and give it back to them for money. And he's had like 90 COVID shots.
90?
Yeah. Are
they that ineffective?
Are they that what?
Ineffective?
Yeah, that you would think.
If you got 90 of anything, you'd think, oh, that's dangerous.
Yeah, like, okay, you ought to be, I don't know, comatose now or something.
Yeah.
But, this is in Germany where they have, like, this stupid passport system where you've got to have these COVID cards to go into restaurants and pools and stuff like that. It's just... the real culprit here is the stupidity of the whole COVID crowd and the COVID rules.
Yeah. But the fact that he could get 90 shots and it not cause some kind of major health problem tells me that they've stopped even trying to make them in any way effective.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem. But that there's
or I wonder if it's one of those things that are effective for certain people. Like they kill certain people, they make certain people
maybe a little bit immune,
infertile,
and then other people they don't do anything for.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder
kind of like the virus itself.
Yeah, because the virus itself, some people barely get sick, and some people die.
Yeah,
it's the fact that this was all manufactured ought to just really worry people, and that this shot can actually kill one guy, and another guy could get 90 of them, and it not do anything to them.
That should be
so
concerning.
That's alarming. Yeah.
All right. I got one more, and this is a local story that I just thought was kind of funny. So there's a guy...
Local for you or me?
Local for me. Here in Hendricks County. Indiana. So a guy named Terry Judy is running for sheriff this year. And let's see, when was this? I'm trying to look for the date because this was like last week sometime. Anyway... last week he was arrested for drunk driving.
Oh yeah. Now,
so is
it all of Indiana or in certain counties where like you cannot refuse a what do you call it? A breathalyzer. Like if you refuse the breathalyzer, they take you to jail, which is the same as saying you cannot refuse it. And I know lawyers who will swear don't ever let them give you a breathalyzer. You're basically handing them evidence. Don't give them evidence. And it's like, well, if you get just as much trouble for not allowing them to do a breathalyzer, well then what good? Who cares? Go ahead and take the rap on the drunk driving.
Unless you get arrested, but the arrest isn't is because you get arrested, but then you've got a trial that has to occur before you can get fined, before it can go against your driver's license and that kind of stuff. And so that's the point, is that you get arrested, but a lawyer can now help you with the trial, and you might beat it, especially if you weren't actually drunk.
You would think, but I know a guy who refused to test, and he spent the next year not driving.
Well, because he lost the trial.
He waited months just for the trial.
Oh, no kidding.
And then, I don't know, you know what, I might not have the whole story, but I would... See, I don't trust breathalyzers.
Yeah.
I don't trust them at all, because I worked at BP ProCare, and some of the people would bring their cars in that we have to work on, and they'd have a little breathalyzer thing attached to it.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, what is this? And they're like, this was a court-ordered thing. You have to breathe into this and test negative for alcohol in order to get the car started.
Wow.
So I thought, first of all, that's dumb. You could just ask someone else to breathe into it if you're drunk. Second of all, I would breathe into it, and it would fail like 5 times before it finally allowed me to start the car. And I wasn't drinking.
So I wonder if they, like, do they look for, like, the warmth of your breath or something?
I have no idea what they look for.
Because you could,
I just know that I kept failing it.
You could just, like, blow up a balloon at the beginning of the night and leave it in the car, and then come back and untie the balloon and let the balloon blow into the thing for you.
Yeah, you could do that.
It's just such a stupid device.
Yeah, it was dumb because it didn't work. It definitely didn't work.
Yeah, on both sides, it didn't. There's so many ways to defeat it, and obviously it was kicking false positives.
Yeah. Oh well, but this sheriff guy running for sheriff gets arrested. Did you see the picture of him? His eyebrows look like birds. They look cartoonish.
I didn't pick that up. Hold on.
He looks like an evil villain. Look at the mugshot. He's on a Batman movie, I think. Does he not look like a villain?
Here we go. Hold on. Okay. Oh yeah. Those eyebrows. There are a couple of wings or something. He's got like it's almost like a caricature of those eyebrows. And even when he's in uniform there.
He's got it there too.
Well, he's still running for sheriff. He decided not to drop out.
He didn't back down.
The guy who's currently sheriff isn't rerunning, so he's probably got a good chance.
Yeah, I guess people who enjoy a drink every now and then, and sometimes have to drive right afterwards, would think, well, this guy will be sympathetic. So
I know that's what I was thinking. It's like, okay, what message is this supposed to send?
Yeah, we'll see a change in the way they handle drunk driving after this guy's elected.
Yeah.
And the sheriffs will stop pulling over random cars and testing them. I don't think they should be allowed to.
I don't either. I think they should be
allowed to do that.
Nope, I think there should be probable cause in order to interrupt your activities.
Yeah, that's illegal search and seizure. In a more personal way than going through your stuff. They're like going through your body.
Yeah. I've seen them where all they do is they just pull you over and talk to you and try to get a sense by talking to you. And then if they find something, then they say, "Oh, I had probable cause." I don't think they should be able to interrupt your activities by pulling you over to begin with without original probable cause, like you're driving crazy or something,
swerving or Well, here's the thing, even in cases where that is the case, like in some counties where they're not allowed to pull someone over without probable cause, they make it up.
Yeah.
You were swerving a little bit. I wasn't swerving.
You didn't stop all the way at that stop sign.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know how much it matters.
There's no tyranny like petty tyranny, they say.
Yeah. All right.
That's all I got.
That's all you got? Okay. Well, I didn't get a saint.
Okay, that's fine. So next week I'll have a saint. I've got some notes, but not complete.
Okay. Yeah, you said we should start doing our kids' saints, but so my name is Eric James Engel, and I named my son Eric James Engel. And when he went to get his St. James the Lesser. When he went to pick a confirmation saint, He picked James. I said, like James the Greater now? James. He said, no, James the Lesser. So I said, that's already your patron saint. Yeah, I know. It's James. Well. It's James the Second. My kid's a smart aleck. All right. Well, I guess that gets me off of here for tonight, so I can go to bed and go to Cleveland tomorrow because I love going to Cleveland.
Absolutely.
And, well, think about what we said. And as always,
circle them beads.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.